Okay, let's get the intro out of the way. I'm Mark. These are sketches I wrote, 25 to 30 years ago, back when I wrote for a college-age Christian group, and you can find them on a YouTube site known as CCF 90s Skit Nostalgia if you don't want to hear the commentary. A lot of evangelical stuff going on here, and a lot of cringe going on here. There are parts about this sketch that I do like. So when I was going through all the skits that I have, like at least taped on file, and I wondered which ones I wanted to do commentary for, I picked this because I think I liked the basic concept of it. And this is one of those times where the concept and the execution don't necessarily match up. For example, this particular thing is basically based on a lot of ideas of something. And I'm very certain that the concept that we did was, we really focused a lot of this at CCF. This concept of essentially lordship, this idea that God is in charge and you really need to make your life that would please him. There's a danger in that. And the danger is that sometimes you're not really going for what God wants for you, but the idea of what you think God wants for you, or the idea of what others think God wants for you. And that gets really kind of dangerous. And I still believe in God, and I still believe that there's a God there. What I don't believe is that we can make this recipe book for what we know God wants, and I don't even think even the Bible is really a good representation of what God wants. Don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna diss on the Bible, but I think you could interpret the Bible in such a way to make humanity kind of nothing. And should you do that? No. I think there's an idea of this that I think humanity is worth saving, but I don't necessarily think that we are better than God because of just simply the dynamic there. This gets into a complicated issue. What do you think about this? Now, since I love to write, and I like to create characters, and I like to create worlds, and I like to do all this stuff, I like I've said before, I like the idea of this thing, because this has kind of happened to me before, where I've been working on stories, and I feel like the main character is essentially looking up at me and going like, what the hell are you doing? It was an ordinary day. And that's fine to do, because sometimes as an author, we can mess up. We don't do this. Now, unfortunately, when you're going with the idea that God is absolutely perfect and everything that is happening is essentially according to his plan, well, this is where it gets really tricky, because I think you and I both know there are things going on this planet Earth that are definitely not part of God's original plan, or at least like, hey, he should not allow this thing to happen, but he does. And if you're writing, you have to make your characters go through suffering and tribulation and trial, and then hopefully, in many cases, rise up from it. And that has to happen. It gets kind of complicated there as far as what really needs to happen from there. One of these guys was like some sort of exchange student or something. So I think he has like a line where he says like, "Hasta la vista, baby." I guess he really likes the whole. I guess he liked the Terminator movies or something. I don't know. So anyway, this is kind of where it gets kind of crazy. Get it? Because he took a sign that said everything. See? I know that joke didn't really work. A lot of these are very meta jokes, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I kind of like this idea of essentially working with someone who is, I don't know. This is one of the things that, it would be kind of weird to imagine if you woke up and you discovered, like, say, you're actually like in a movie or you're in a book, and there's somebody behind a typewriter. There's people just trying to figure out how this goes. Imagine how you would approach life like that. Maybe you would want to make corrections and you would want to make it good for you. I think there's no problem with that. But I think, unfortunately, the way life works and the way stories work, even fiction works, there's always some stuff that is going to get you down, okay? And maybe that's good that happens. But I'm not really certain that that's the moral I'm trying to say in this particular thing. So, yeah. I don't know. I think there's some good concepts here, but I don't know. I'm just gonna say, like, if you like this, just gonna. Yeah. Anyway, well, at least the actors are doing their best in this role, and I think I think as far as like original material, I like it.